Hi, everybody. Welcome to Wild, Creative, and Confident, a video interview series where you can learn from the most inspiring industry leaders on how you can use your passion and creativity to design the life and the business of your dreams. I'm your host, Sarah Marie Thompson from wildandcreative.com, and I'm really excited about my guest today, Sarah Hart from sarahhart.ca, and she is a visual branding expert, a web designer, and she assists lifestyle brands become absolute legends online. When she's not designing up a storm, Sarah loves getting lost in the woods with her camera and relaxing with a cup of tea and a good book on mythology. Now, I feel like that's my bio that I just read, but my design would be like art and interior design. But I wish we lived closer because I feel like we could go on adventures together.
Yeah, like it's funny. I think we have a lot in common. We definitely should meet up in person.
a few things in common, right?
Amazing.
So I'm excited to talk to you. Tell me about how you got to the place of where you are right now. So right now you're helping industry leaders online. You're an industry leader yourself, but I mean, you're truly inspiring. Where did you get to the place that you are at a very comfortable level right now within your business?
Yeah, that's like a big question. I honestly think so. This is not my first business. I started from being like such a shy, like if you can believe it, I used to be like super, super shy and had like no self-confidence and had crazy anxiety a lot of my life. And honestly, I just got so fed up of feeling that anxiety that one day I was like, you know what, screw this. I can't handle this. I have to change my life and I want to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to make it happen, even though I have all this. So I think for me, like, fear has been such a powerful and positive thing in my life, because what I found is that when I follow those fears, when I try to do things in my life that terrify me, and when I do them, the results are amazing. And so I find that what I love about business really is it's not just for making money and living the life of your dreams. It's really a tool for personal growth, because you're challenging yourself to do all kinds of new things in your life and in your business. So it's just like, I find it's just like always this journey of growth, and that's how it's been the last few years anyway.
So did you ever have like a wake up moment, or like was it gradually over a short amount of time that you decided to really take a change within your day to day, or was it kind of just like snapped out of it and you're like, I'm doing this?
Yeah, like I remember the moment. So I was working full time and I pretty much had a dream job. Like I was working full time as a graphic designer, like, great job and living the dream, but like not having time to do anything like creative on my own, and feeling like exhausted and just like falling asleep when I got home and like doing nothing but working. And so I was like, oh, I'm living the dream. So I felt guilty, but, and then I ended up getting all this crazy anxiety, and it just got crazy where I couldn't even sleep at night because I was just so anxious about work. And I just remember that night where I was up to 4 a.m. and I remember something clicked in my head and I said, Sarah, you're quitting tomorrow. I don't like this is it. Like, I'm not doing this again. And the next day I quit. And I'm like, yeah, no. And then I started my business right from there. And I was like, no. Done.
A lot of people would love to do that, right? Were you scared when you decided to quit? Knowing that I don't know if my business is going to make enough money for me, right?
Yeah, and my first business didn't. Like, it's really funny because, I think there's a lot of fears, especially because we view businesses as being successful if they're financially successful. So for me, I think having the mindset, okay, I'm just going to play. Like, this is going to be fun. I'm going to just see what happens. I'm going to see, what I can do with this. And, it turns out that the business I had, I didn't want to do. And I didn't make any money from it, but it was like the first stepping stone to what I've created now, which was my next business. So, I think it was terrifying, but what I had done, I had saved money. So that was probably the saving thing, is that I had saved money while I was working full time. So I did have a little bit of a cushion, which was nice.
So tell me about, like, have you really been always an inspired person? Like, I imagine you, like, as a young child, still, like, taking photos and, like, drawing and things like that.
Yeah, I think we're always learning. Like I feel like as children, we are like so inspired all the time and we're so creative. I know for me personally, I spent my summers down at the cottage with my three sisters and my parents. We didn't have any internet or you know what I mean? Like there was nothing. So we pretty much drew all summer. Like we would draw and have adventures in the woods. So I feel like I always remembered that. I always wanted to have that as a big part of my life because it was such a big part of my childhood was those summers. So yeah.
And it probably really built who you are today, because I know, like, growing up for me too, like, there were no cell phones, when we were little, right? And I mean, just the whole thing about, like, us being outside all day and, like, playing and just on adventures and, like, building forts, whatever you're doing, right? I mean, I was at, I think it was like a hotel like a couple weeks back, and I heard this little kid say, Dad, they have Wi-Fi here. They have Wi-Fi. And I'm like, I can't believe this kid is saying that. Like, you know what I mean? So, I'm sure that all of your adventures and all of your, drawing really led you to this point. So that's awesome. Did you ever know when you were little, deep down, that you would get to this point now?
Oh my goodness. I don't think I could believe it. I don't know. Like, it seems like, I know, even thinking from what I believed last year versus this year, like, that's a huge change versus, like, when I was like, younger. I would say no. Like I said, like, I was really shy and didn't have a lot of self-confidence. So I didn't really think that I could. And it's amazing because you can change that mindset, right? Like, just by, like, we can change who we are. We can change the way we think of ourselves as we grow, you know what I mean? Something that might scare you now is something that's going to be easy in a year or 5 years. It's amazing.
So obviously, you seem like the type of person that's always growing, always growing and changing and expanding. And, that passion for life that you have and just for being open to change, how is your passion different than others in the industry that you feel?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I feel like we all have the passion. I feel like the passion is there. I think it's more about being okay with play and being okay being wrong and letting go of the perfection. If you can just be like, I feel like I'm just like, I don't come from like a perfection mindset. I'm like so messy. I'm such a messy person just generally that I think the difference between, like, I think we all have passions, but I just don't care what the results are for my passions. Like, I'm just going to let it do what it's going to do and I get really curious about why things work. And I'm like, when I said my first business didn't work at all, like, I was like, I honestly thought, so I had a farmer's market booth and I had a card line and I was like, they're going to be so beautiful and people are going to buy them and I'm going to be rich. And that didn't happen. I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know anything about making sales. And so I became obsessed. I'm like, oh, I gotta learn how to, make sales. That's exciting. Like, how does this work? And I think having that mindset of curiosity and play and being like, okay, let's figure this out. I think that makes a big difference in the person's success is it's like having that playfulness to it.
That's such a big question. I know that so many people deal with, and I've dealt with many times before. We're so excited and we're so passionate and we're so enthusiastic and so inspired about this new project or this business that we're doing. And everything is perfect in a sense. We are, pumping out all the great material. We're inspired, but it's not making money, right? So you ask yourself, like, how is that possible? Because, everything's in alignment pretty much for me except the financial abundant part. Yeah. So what do you think about that? Like, what do you think the answer is? Like, do you think that people, if they're finding that, although they're having a wonderful time doing this and they feel like it's their life purpose, to keep going or to shift it to the left or to the right because it might not be totally in alignment?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you have to keep going and shift. You gotta zigzag, kind of like
just kind of like try something new, like, but keep going with it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right there, because I think people do get stuck, like when it's not like being financially successful, but it's not going to be financially successful unless you keep on going.
I know.
But
Yeah. It is the big quandary for so many people.
yeah.
What has been your biggest achievement when it comes to personal power and understanding yourself to the point of ease and flow that you've gained in your business?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love this question. I think my personal power, like, one second here. I know I wrote myself a note about this one because it was so powerful. One second. Oh yeah. So I think the biggest thing that I've done for myself is I've given myself permission to not feel guilty about having days where I do nothing but watch Netflix in my pajamas and eat chocolate.
Yeah, I
And
love it. I love
like,
that.
you know what? It's amazing because I had this aha moment last year where I would do that. Like I'd have a week where like February, you know what I mean? And you're like, just like, I just want to watch girls in Broad City. And so I was feeling so guilty about that and beating myself up so much about it. And I was like, do you know what? This is stupid. I'm not even enjoying myself being lazy. Like, might as well just be like, you know what? I'm so happy I'm doing this for myself. And I totally changed my mindset. And what had happened is after I gave myself permission to have those days, I was on fire in my business the next week. I got everything I wanted to do done. I was inspired. I was creative. And I think by letting go of that guilt of always being productive, or like, you know, when someone comes home, they're asked you what you did that day, you want to tell them you did something other than watch Netflix. So sometimes that's part of the process, right? So I think my personal path, like, that was so empowering to be like, yeah, you know what? You don't have to do this all the time. You can have space to like do, you know, guilty pleasure stuff too.
I think so many people feel that way. And I think for me, I've probably since I was 20, I've always been like, okay, the achiever. I'm going to like do this and this and this, and I'm going to get all my goals done. And, you know, and doing that for years and years and years, it starts to become a pattern. And so then when you want to like watch TV or something like that, you do kind of feel the guilt and you're like, okay, I need to be doing something while I watch TV. So it's been really tricky for me, like over the past couple of years, you know, like I'll watch Netflix or watch a movie or something, and I'll have to be like sitting with my hands like this, and I'll be like, okay, I'm watching a movie and that's it. You know what I mean? Because like just to train yourself off of the whole, I got to be like studying something or writing notes or kind of reading a book, always multitasking. Totally trying on ourselves, and we totally have to remember just to let loose. And you know, it's those funny stories where you hear people say, you know, it takes me like 4 days to like just get let loose when I go to Mexico or something, right? Because people don't know how to just be anymore. But it's so true, because when people just be and they let go of the guilt, or they let go of needing to do something in that moment, it's funny because they usually do make a sale the next day, or they usually do something like that, right? Because it's just like ease and flow.
I love that. I love that so much. Like, it just puts you in the right mind. Like, if you're beating yourself up, then you're just blocking yourself from abundance. Honestly.
Totally.
Yeah. So just feel good about it, all, like everything, every piece of it, right?
Before we go into these next questions, I just want to talk for a minute about, you have a free giveaway that you're giving to the viewers, and it's a branding quiz that basically gives you the answer to what your branding vibe is. Okay, I don't know if you remember when I emailed you about this, but once, I don't know how I came across your website. This was a few months back. It was fate. And I took your branding quiz, and I was just like, oh, I just like sunk down in my chair, and I was like, how is it that this quiz knows exactly what I want? And, you know, I've worked with other branding people in the past, or web designers or whatever, and they haven't got it. You know, so this quiz is so accurate. So tell us how you created it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. That means so much. Yeah, so I knew I wanted to create, like, I after working with a lot of clients, I could definitely see different trends. So I was like, yeah, quiz is going to be so much fun. And I was really excited about it. So basically I created a quiz using this plugin called PlayBuzz. And then the results are hooked up to brand books too, with like fonts and colors and stuff. Cause I want to give people like exactly, because people get so stuck, especially when it comes to website stuff. Like people get really stuck in their branding. So I just want to give them like the exact tools to like get you going, right? So yeah, it was a lot of, I had so much fun creating that. Like that's kind of an awesome thing about like being an entrepreneur too, is you get to do fun projects for yourself and have a lot of fun with that. So
well, it's so detailed. I think I like emailed it to a couple people after, and I was like, I think you're gonna get this, so tell me if I'm right. But it's just, you know, people love, in a sense, they love to be categorized with quizzes. They love to be their character separated from other characters, right? And that's really what branding in your website is all about. Like, you want to stick out. You don't want to be the norm.
yes, yeah, absolutely. I think people really get stuck. I think one of my biggest pet peeves is when people are like, oh, I just want to be more professional. And I'm like, no, like you don't want to tone yourself down at all, because that's what's going to, like your dream clients are going to come along and you're not going to be there to fall in love with, because you're not putting your personality on your website. So it's so important to get those amazing clients.
I absolutely went through that situation myself. Even within the last year, I had a very artsy, creative website that was full of color and just kind of almost like crazy creative nonsense. And through guidance of other people online, I toned it down and became professional in a sense. And I found it to be extremely, what's the word? It really did not help me whatsoever. It really kind of dulled my spirit. Like for the business, for the website, I wasn't happy about it. It had no really detail of who I really was as a person. It really just, it was bland. And it was one of the worst decisions that I ever made. So I would say everyone learn from my experience and don't do that.
Yeah, and it's funny because it comes from a fear-based place when you tone yourself down.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing good that can ever come from that. When you're like scared of putting people off, that's always a great thing to put people off, because you're turning other people on, right? So yeah, I'm sorry you went through that. Like that sucks, but I'm sure you can reintroduce. Yeah, I love what you said too, that you know you felt like, oh, like
kind of depleted, kind of depleted in a sense. Not myself, for sure.
Yeah, and your website, you should go on your website and you should feel amazing. It should inspire you to write your blog post. It should inspire you to like do stuff for your business, because it should represent, you know, the best part of yourself. So yeah, totally.
Well, what do you say about, because I mean, you're online with many people in your own industry, online with many coaches. You probably do a lot of work for different coaches, different creative people. What would you say regarding that idea that people should have, you know, more of a professional businessy side on their website? Because I kind of feel like it's an unwritten rule that people just think that, you know, say to make a lot of money online, whatever you're doing, you have to kind of take out the creativity and the natural flow, if that makes sense, and make it more business-like.
I totally disagree. And I think there's some really good examples, especially that I've noticed popping up the last few months, is that big brands are actually putting more, they're redesigning to put more personality. Like you're seeing really amazing photo shoots that are like kind of fun and unique. We're seeing like these pops of like really unique, like, what's a good example? Just like pops of what that person's into and like random things. Like there's one on the website, and it was the Middle Finger Project, and they redesigned it, and they have like a scavenger hunt on their website. Like that's so much fun. You know what I mean? Like people are adding fun and playfulness left, right, and center on their websites, these big brands. Yeah. And I think it can be done. Like I think like on the other side too, I think it can be overdone. I think you could have way too much going on your website. Like, don't get me wrong, like it shouldn't be cluttered. And I think that there's a really, depending on what your personality is, you can definitely tone it down and have just like pops of inspiration and personality. But I think that who you are should really be represented in your design 100%.
That is an awesome lesson. And it brings me into this next question.
Yeah.
How have you personally taken the route of being creative instead of competitive when it comes to your soulful business? And has competition and that fear and all that junk that comes up ever affected you?
Oh my goodness, yes. I think it affects all of us, right? So I remember when I was launching my first, like my e-course for the first time and I was in the creation mode, I had to unfollow like all my design friends on Facebook because like everything they were doing looked like what I was doing. And I was like, oh my God, we're doing the same stuff. Oh, like it was like, it felt like there was competition and that is so fear-based. Do you know what I mean? When you think it's such a scarcity mindset, when you think of it, like, no, like and so like after I've launched that and I've been doing it for over a year. So now like all the uglies have come out and I'm feeling pretty confident about myself. And now I'm like, you know what? I could be in a room with 100 other people who, teach on like how to design their websites. Doesn't matter. People buy from me because they like my personality. They like my teaching style. And that's it. Like, that's pretty much like, that can't be reproduced at all. It doesn't matter if someone's teaching the exact, like, let's say someone took my whole program and taught it. Like, it doesn't even matter because I'm going to practice the right people for me. It doesn't matter.
That's such a good point you brought up about unfriending people or unliking them for the time being. I mean, it sounds mean, quote, quote, but it's not, because if it's really going to help you stay focused on who you are and what your personal message is, then that's going to be beneficial for you. I know that there are so many groups online, and I've talked about this with many other people before, but there are so many groups online and everybody sharing what is the hottest thing, what you should be doing, how you should be doing it, all this and that, right? And we're so inundated with all of this information that necessarily is not beneficial to us or does not have anything to do with what we should be doing, right? So I mean, I would probably say the same thing too. If you're feeling those feelings of overwhelm and just competitiveness or comparisonitis, do what you have to do and stay off Facebook for a while or whatever, right?
Yeah, I think like detox, put the blinders on, especially when you're in creation mode and you're creating something from like your heart. Like, it's so easy to like compare yourself when it's coming from a place of pure inspiration. You don't want to cloud that. You want to like totally disconnect, especially from people in your industry, especially.
And then it goes back again to what we were talking about before about feeling as though you always have to be doing something. It's almost tricky for people when they're in creation mode to be like, no, I'm not going on Facebook for 2 weeks because if I don't, people will forget about me. If I don't, people will think I'm out of business, whatever, right? Like, it's so ridiculous.
I still deal with that one, especially recently, because I recently had a breakup. And so I kind of was like in like kind of limbo for a little while. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I honestly like was like not feeling inspired and not wanting to be online as much. And like feeling like, oh, if I leave, like, no one will like me. So I totally feel that. I still feel that now, like that fear that like, if I take time away, people will totally forget about me. Right. So.
But it's that thing, like everybody has followers, no matter even if they think they don't, there's always somebody watching. And if it makes you feel better to say, put out a blog post or a Facebook post and say, hey, I'm doing creation mode for 2 weeks. I'm going to come out with something amazing. So this is why I'm disappearing. You know what I mean? At least it's out there kind of thing. Right. But
I love that. I think it honors, like, you're honoring the stages of your life. I think that's like, if you're in creation mode, honor that and just commit to it versus like trying to do everything all at once. Yeah.
Tell me about your creation mode before Facebook really happened. Like,
ooh.
Do you remember it being like it's just so different? It must have been. I think for people, it's probably so much more heartfelt. Like, even though you say, you're working from your heart, and absolutely, but without all the electronics, we weren't inundated with them and we weren't scattered.
Yeah, no, I think the magic really happens when you're 3 hours into something and you have like nothing to distract you. Like, that's like the magic is like just being fully in something for that amount of time. So I think it's really hard now that like, I feel like creativity is just like getting a beating in our like online world, because like that real, like when you're like there's like creativity and then there's like creativity where it's like, you know, coming through you. I think like, I think it makes it really tough. We have to, I feel like a skill set that I've been practicing and a lot of us probably need to practice more is like just the focus and like repetition and like just getting really clear about what we're doing in our days, what we're doing in our years, and just like, I find that's like a practice we all, like I find, like me personally, definitely need more of that.
I know that, and tell me if this is the same for you, I know that creative people, we can be doing so many things at once because we're interested in so many things and we're excited and inspired about so many things that, you know, I was doing so many things at one time. I had to literally write down a list of the things I love to do, the things I like to do, and the things I'm not really liking, but I'm doing anyway. If you have to hash it out, I mean, you know.
Yeah. That's so smart. I love that idea. Like, just like, what do I like? What really lights me up, you know, and focus on what that is. Yeah, absolutely.
What would you suggest to the people that are the female entrepreneurs that are watching, or even people wanting to get into business, regarding a really specific method that has worked for you that could help them find their true authentic calling too?
I think for me, just like chasing that fear, like not being afraid of fear. So like, for example, when I was terrified when I first started blogging, like I was so scared. Like I was like trembling even thinking about putting myself out there online. And I did not share a blog post for 6 months. Like I was, I was writing once a week and I hadn't even, like, I was so scared I hadn't even shared anything for 6 months, but it was so important to me that I started blogging, and I knew in my heart that I had to start doing it. And now, like, the results that have come from that have been amazing for my business. And also like webinars became a huge part of my business, and that scared the hell out of me. I'm not a great public speaker, so I was like, oh my God, like this is terrifying. And it just honestly felt like the worst to do it. But I'm like, no, I want to do this. You know, I feel like this is going to be important for me. So did webinars, and now it's a huge part of my business. I get tons of clients that way, and like builds my brand amazingly. So every time that I'm afraid of something now, I'm like, oh, well, that means I have to do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you can't go back. Like, it's like, okay, I'm afraid. I got to do it to reach the next level of amazingness in my life and business.
Because there's so many programs and things like that that are, you know, for our computer or whatnot that are going to help us build our business. But some of us are maybe scared of technology in some way, right? So I'm sure even before you did a webinar, you're like, oh, what if I don't do it properly? Like, I'm kind of nervous about it, you know, and that held you back for maybe a couple days or a week. I don't know however long, but I've felt the same way too. But after you do it, you're like, that was so simple. Like, why did I hesitate?
Yeah. Yeah, we focus on these little things like the technology, or like, I'm not going to know how to do it. Or I think for me too, I'm going to look really stupid, and everybody's going to unfollow me instantly after, right? Like, there's so much fear. But yeah, no, I think and then we don't really give ourselves props, because we usually like, oh, that was great. And then we are like, don't really realize like how scared you were and now how amazing you are. So I think that's really interesting too.
I have it's not really personal, but I wanted to ask another female entrepreneur that is probably on the computer often. I'll tell you my story. I was always on my laptop, and then I got myself a really beautiful, big, nice computer for my desk, so that when I'm working more efficiently. And when I'm, you know, say sitting with my fiance on the couch, I'm not on my laptop, because I know that always really bothered him, right? Even though, because I wasn't present with him, right? Mm-hmm. So over the years in relationships, have you ever found that, or what has been your thing that you have done to work through the whole, when you're working, and when you're with someone, you're present? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do. Like, on my phone, I turn off I have no notifications on my phone.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
So I just turn like that's like something that bothers me too, is like when you're trying to like connect with somebody and there's always like, so that's something I definitely do. I don't like I don't really like having the phone all the time. Especially in the summer, I really like, it's important for me to take time away, like at least 2 months, like, and just like really tone it down. So I find having certain months of the year where I'm like on vacation, like I was on vacation for 2 months and I was like, that means like only this much internet time.
That's awesome.
But I don't think I'm amazing at it. I feel like you're probably better than me. I'm still struggling with that one, honestly.
I think that it's always tricky. I think that it's maybe tricky for me a little bit more than maybe somebody else that has another entrepreneurial partner, because my partner isn't as entrepreneurial as I am, right? So he leaves his work at work. And I am working all the time in a sense, right? So I think that definitely is trickier when you have that yin yang in your relationship. But yeah, I mean, because when you're an entrepreneur, you're doing it at times, you're at night, you're working in the day or whenever you feel inspired and that kind of thing. So it is tricky. I was just wondering your experience in that over the years.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was ever a time I was really, really good at it, and I don't know.
Maybe nobody's like 100% good at it, right? It's just one of those things.
I don't know about you too, because sometimes I get really inspired at night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like things are coming, and I have other projects too. Like I've been doing some writing and stuff like that. Like, so it's like, honestly, this doesn't really feel like work. So it's really hard to put that separator, because everything feels like play to me. Like all of this, it just feels like, okay, this is just what I do. So I definitely can understand why it's such a hard to separate from the rest of your life.
So tell me what your creative bliss is, and I'll explain to you creative bliss. It's kind of something I termed that is the perfect setting or the perfect environment that just so sparks your creativity that you're just like so in love with life.
Oh my
like,
God.
Do you have like, like a spot in the woods where you go and you like journal, or, even a space in your home that you have created that is just, full of inspiration that you're just, when your heart just like sings and you're just like, oh, I'm just in my creative bliss.
I love that. Yeah. So I feel like I have a few places. So like when it's nice weather, like the woods, like the woods speaks to me. Like going for a walk and just like being by myself, maybe having some music and just like really, or even like not having music and just like hearing what's going on in nature. And I find like movement makes me feel creative. You know what I mean? Like being, you can kind of feel it in your body, you know what I mean? And then, so I think the woods is so powerful. And then, in my home, I think like if I have a nice cup of tea and, if I have like it's a nice candle going and I'm feeling cozy, coming like pillows and on the couch. I love like sitting on my couch and like having like, maybe it's raining, because we were talking about this earlier, the rain and the tea in the book, right? So, like a little bit of rain. Like I feel
the tea in the book.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. I feel like rain is like a great motivator for creativity, don't you?
I would probably say that my most creative time comes when it's like slightly gloomy outside or kind of rainy, especially in the summer. And I don't know why. Me personally, people ask, what's your favorite weather? And I'm going to say a rainy day. Like, I don't know. It's just my thing. Yeah.
No one else feels that way. I feel like I love a rainy day. It's so cozy. And like, I just moved into this place and I have a wood stove now too. So like wood stove, rain, like cup of tea. Oh my God. That's just like bliss. That is total bliss.
I really thought about it one time, why I really feel creative on a rainy day. And it's a mindset thing for me. It almost feels kind of like a Sunday. And I know this is not 100% accurate, but I feel like if I'm being creative or working on a rainy day and feeling inspired, I feel like the world is resting. And I feel like I can almost get ahead or catch up in a weird way in my mind. And I kind of feel like that when I do like activities or things like that on a Sunday. I feel like nobody else is working right now. Like I feel so productive. I know that's just a mindset thing, but I think that's where it kind of stemmed from. But yeah, weather has a huge part of the way we feel about the way we are inspired, right? I know some people only feel inspired on sunny days. For me, I just want to kind of go to the beach or kind of unplug on sunny days.
Exactly. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on sunny days to go do something versus like rainy days. It's like, okay, now I have like space to like just be here.
So
Right?
thoughtful.
Yeah. No, we're totally on the same page. Yeah.
Cool. So I just wanted to tell everybody, I want to really pump your branding quiz because it is so incredibly accurate. So everybody do it. I honestly, like, I fell in love with it. I got the Huntress.
Ooh.
And I was just like, oh, it was awesome. So definitely take Sarah's quiz. And what other things have you got going on that we should know about behind the scenes? Like, what can we see from you in the next little bit?
Oh yeah, that's exciting. So I am on my blog. I'm excited for this year. I'm creating some more like design templates for people, which I'm really excited about. So I'm creating some cool templates, and I am doing a lot of webinars too. So I love doing my webinars. They're just so much fun. And then in the spring, I'm launching my program, the Brand Mapping Method, again. So it'll be only open. I think it'll be like the last time it's open all year. So I'm really excited about that one too. So yeah, this year it's just feeling like, I don't know, I'm just like focused on like connection and giving and just giving people lots of information.
What's your word of the year? I want to know. You know, everybody's talking about that, right?
Actually, I just had a meetup this week with a bunch of friends where we were deciding our words, and it's kind of a little bit different, but I want to embody a queen. Like my word is queen. Like I just want to feel like a queen this year. Like queens ask for what they want. They know what they want. They are just confident and rulers of their reality. What's that?
And commanding. Yeah. Yeah.
Like a nice queen, like not like a mean one, but like a you know, like a nice. I don't know.
Not an ice queen, but a nice queen. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you know, like it still can be, you know, fun and sweet, but also, you know, feeling like a badass a bit.
The thing that I love about you and your website style is that you're very giving with information, and you're very giving with, like you even said, like branding templates, and this is the font you should be using and things like that, where, you know, a lot of people are worried about providing too much information. They kind of hold back in a sense, and it almost does them an injustice because it's not showing everybody what they're capable of.
Mm-hmm. I know. I see that all the time where people are like obsessed. They're like, oh my God, what's going to be free? What's going to be paid? It's just like, honestly, it is hard when you're starting out because you don't know. But honestly, just give it all away and people are going to love you, and then they're going to pay for your paid stuff because it's more organized and like bundled nicely because it's going to save them time. And there's always, you know, I feel like it's such a scarcity mindset to think that I'm going to run out of stuff to give. Yeah. It's like, no, like that's just the beginning. You know what I mean? Like you have so much to give, and you're going to, like, people learn so much too as they have businesses, right? Like, yeah. You too, like imagine like when you were starting your business, what you know then versus what you know now is amazing.
Oh, at the beginning, I was very worried about, you know, giving too much away. And I was like, well, what will I have as a paid product, or, you know, that kind of thing. But you're always evolving too, and you're always learning, and you're always developing more and more and more. I mean, I think it'd be ridiculous to think that you would just stop there and then not make anything else. So.
Exactly. No, like we're creation beings. Like we're just like giving it away, right? Like, so I think if you're just starting out, like you just give it, like you want people to fall in love with you, and to do that, you've got to give it all away. You just got to give them your best stuff, and like it's rewarding too, because people love it, and people will change their whole lives because of you and because of what you're giving. It's just amazing energy generally to do, right?
Yeah, and when they're learning things, they're remembering what they learned and where they learned them from, right? So then you're kind of stuck in their head.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time. I have one more question for you before we go. Okay. What is it that makes you wild, creative, and confident?
Ooh, what makes me wild, creative, and confident? I don't know. I feel like I don't know. What makes you wild, creative, and confident? Give me an example.
Oh my gosh. Well, I was explaining this in another interview, but well, I've always been a very confident person, and I've always been an extremely creative person. The wild part, I really had to kind of get into the mindset of, because I love nature and all that entails, and I really feel that creativity comes from nature. But I was explaining, it was funny when I was coming up with the name for my website. I love the name Wild and Creative, but when I first chose it, the next couple days I was literally pacing around telling my fiance, like, I can't do it. I can't live up to this wild name. People are going to think I'm a fraud. Like, I don't dance naked under the full moon. I'm freaking out here. Like, just totally overthinking it. So ridiculous. And he's like, what is your problem? He's like, if you want to dance naked under the full moon, just go do it. And I was like, that's such a good idea. And so I did. And I'm like, yep, I got this wild thing down pat.
It's amazing. Oh my God.
It's just such a mindset thing, right? It's so ridiculous. But I think the female is so wild in a sense, right? So many people say that in different ways, but I really think that when we're in tune with our authentic passions and creativity, we're wild in that sense, right? I mean, there is no borders.
Mm-hmm. I love that. You know what? Wild is one of my words. I have queen, wild, and alive. So.
Oh, those are good.
Yeah. I love it. And what you're saying too, like, I think wild is being afraid and still doing it. Wild is like not caring about the result. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're just doing, you're just creating, you're just putting yourself out there. So I think
organic. Yeah.
Organic. Exactly. It's just being and just not, it's like what you were talking about, it's not overthinking. It's not letting yourself be all up here all the time, and just doing and just seeing how it goes.
Yeah. I think that you are wild because you really embody somebody that is, and you've probably grown into this, but is carefree in a sense. And like you said, is really just open to allowing things to come the way that they're supposed to come. And you're just going to do your best, and you're going to just be inspired and keep creating. And however things come to you, they're going to come to you. And that's being wild. You wild baby.
You have me tagged. I feel like we're on the same level. I feel like we're like, this is hilarious.
So where can everybody find you online?
Yeah, so you can check me out at sarahhart.ca, and definitely take the brand legend quiz. You guys are going to have so much fun with that, and grab your brand books with it to help you, like, especially if you're struggling with your branding and website design, like, this is a really good place to start. This is like your foundation. So yeah.
Perfect. And you have a group too, don't you?
Oh yeah, I have an awesome group called Campfire, and so you can join that at sarahhart.ca/community. And we have over 3,000 members now, and It's a really good place to get design feedback. I always hang out there. I answer people's questions if you have any questions. I post like specific things I don't post in over my blog or email. So it's a really like cozy, like campfire sort of feel, where it's just like great place.
People kind of just talk about their creativity, talk about their creative blocks, and everybody kind of helps each other out. That's kind of the campfire and marshmallow vibe of it.
Yes, the marshmallow vibe. Yes. Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. And I'm sure lots of people are going to get lots out of your website and out of this interview. So thank you so much for being real and candid. And I hope to talk to you again very soon.
Yeah, I'm honestly honored to be here, and it was so amazing to speak with you. You're so inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you, Kate. See you later, everybody. Thank you.